Hello everyone, welcome back to the layout, the Union Pacific Railroad Evanston subdivision in HO scale. My name is Daryl Cruz, owner and builder of the layout and your host for a special product review. This time I'm going to be reviewing the mobile control system by ESU. The mobile control system consists of the command station, which runs on the ECOS system, which was developed by ESU, and then also a throttle called the Mobile Control Pro, which not only can run trains with, but can set up the system completely. Now, I have used Digitrax for probably about 25 years. And it's a good system. I've been happy with it, but it's getting very, very old and not up to date. And I wanted something that was a little bit more modern. And the main thing that I wanted to do was get something that could have reporting back from the locomotive, from the decoder, back to the system. So we have a dispatcher's panel. And right now we, of course, have detection so the dispatcher can see where trains are, but presently don't have a way to see which occupied tracks are which train. It just shows up as being occupied. Now, there is a train tracking that you can do that's software-based that works to a point, but as the trains move around, the system gets confused where all the trains are. Here's the CabControl wireless control system. And you can kind of see the things that it has and some of the qualities of it. Here's all the specifications. So anyhow, on the dispatcher's panel, I want very much to have the dispatcher to be able to see which trains are occupying which tracks, which prototype dispatchers have the ability to see which trains are where, and I wanted to have that on my dispatcher's panel. And so I want to use, as you can see on this screenshot here, RailCom Plus, which is a reporting system from the locomotive back to the DCC command station. So I'm going to take a look at this. I'm going to review it. I got this direct from ESU. If you are interested in checking this out, Lombard Hobbies, I think, has 2 or 3 of them in stock if you want to check it out. And, of course, they have a great price on them as well. This is the CabControl. This is by ESU, which is from Germany. And this is their North American system. They have a much larger and more expansive system called ECOS, although this uses the same programming and communication and so forth as the ECOS, but this is designed for the North American market because it basically has the throttle, which is detached from the system. The ECOS that's designed for the European market has 2 throttles and then a big screen with your track layout. And they're used to their system. What they like to do is sit at one spot and have everything automated, and they sit there and watch the trains go by. In North America, we like to follow our trains and not have the computer run everything, but run the trains ourselves and be like the engineer. So it's a whole different idea of how to run trains. So this is for the North American, actually for Australia also. They are also our good friends down under, also like to have a system where you can follow your trains and be the engineer. So here's the CabControl system. Not sure what these plugs here are for, except maybe that's what they use to install programming at the factory. Underneath that little plastic glass is some buttons and lights. Here's the main connections, power, programming track, main track, LNet, which we'll get into a little bit, EcoSlink, Extend, and then the Ethernet connection. There you can see the buttons. Even though I was having difficulty, it is pretty easy to get that off of there, and then you can have access to that. Now this is going to be a multi-part review. I'm just going to concentrate mainly on this part here, the throttle, and then in subsequent reviews I'll do the installation of the command system and replacing Digitrax with this and how that all works together. And you have assembled in the Czech Republic. None of this is made in China, which I think most DCC systems that made for North America are either made in the United States or in Europe. This is a pretty cool system. It is a phone based, so this is basically an Android phone, although you cannot make calls on it. Here's their owner's manual. You have to check it out online, which I usually like to do anyway. I really don't look at the paper manuals very much. And here you just have a simple USB cord. Alright, so here's the throttle. As I said, it's an Android phone, but there's no capabilities to make phone calls. Here you can see my reflection in the screen. There's the normal Android buttons, the hamburger button, the home button, and the return button. The hamburger button is to get a list of all the apps that are running. There you have the USB-C connection, and it looks like it has a phone jack. And then it has a physical slider. This is for a brake that you can assign to the physical slider. And then it has 4 buttons, 2 on this side and then 2 on the other side. And you can assign different functions to those. And then that's the on-off button for the whole thing. And then, of course, what's nice is that you have this throttle. And it can be used as someone who's right-handed or left-handed. If you use your thumb, I'm holding it left-handed style right now. But you can use your thumb, or you can use your other hand. And, again, use your thumb there as well. Here you can see the startup of it. Typical Android, hold the button down till it comes up. And I think this is based on Android 10. I think Android is up to like 16 right now, so it's not the most recent one, but definitely powerful enough for what they're looking to do with it. So there's the main screen, as I'm still admiring the throttle. And it will automatically, now it won't do it the first time. I've already used this a few times before I did this review. So if you already have things set up, it'll all automatically go to the last thing that you were using, which was, in this case, getting connected to the Wi-Fi, the Wii server. So right now, I'm connected to my Digitrax system. I have not entered in the command station. So the command station listed there is the UP Railroad Evanston subdivision Wii throttle. So that's what I'm using right now. Then there you can see the other two. You have the cab control, that's connecting to the system itself through the local area network. I do have it plugged in, but don't have a layout set up for it. And here's all the locomotives that I've kind of already registered. We'll get into the registration here in a little bit. But you can see how he has a list of all. I have about 80 locals in here right now. So this is what it looks like when I'm connected to the cab control system. Now what's nice about this throttle is that if you don't, you can get the throttle separately and then just connect to any layout that has the Wii throttle. So here I'm switching back to the Wii throttle, UPRR Evanston subdivision. That's the old one that I had set up with the Digitrax, and so now I'm connected to that. And it's ready for me to select the local. Now I have a different list of locals. These are all the locals in my JMRI Decoder Pro system. So not only do you have all the locomotives, but I use Decoder Pro for some stationary decoders also. So there you can see Evanston Yard, Staging Yard East, Wasatch, and so forth. That's actually for the for a stationary decoders to throw turnouts. Now I was looking to see if there was a way to get rid of that and get just locomotives, and there wasn't anything on the program that I could see. But I thought that maybe if I change things on Decoder Pro, it might make a difference for that. All right, now this is how I have been running my trains. This is using Android tablet, and I have 3 throttles. This is Engine Driver, which is a great app. Recommend it. Definitely, although I actually have been enjoying the mobile control Pro a lot better. But I had the 3 throttles, and then through JMRI I could get to a control panel here where I can throw turnouts also on the layout. In fact, I have the signals on there, so I can actually throw signals as well. So when I run trains by myself, I can have 3 or 4 trains running on this throttle, and then I can pull up the panel and actually be my own dispatcher and throw turnouts and get things to trains to run around each other or whatever I need to do. All right, now if switching over to the mobile control, if you notice I have 3 locomotives there, and I can still have 3 or more trains running at the same time, and I can switch back and forth between the throttles and then my control panel, so I can still throw turnouts. So I like that part of it still, and I can still throw the signals and so forth. So that works very well, and I can switch back then to the throttle, and then I have 3 of them listed, but each throttle just, you have a lot bigger screen, and it just looks a lot better. And you can swipe back and forth and switch from train to train. So you can use this on any layout that has a Wi-Fi setup and has a Wii throttle server that's running. So that's if you want to buy this separately. I think it's like I think Lombard Hobbies has it for under $300, like $275, something like that. So I guess you could say it's fairly expensive, but I like it, and it definitely works well with a cab control system. Again, you can see it's very easy to switch back and forth with it. All right, now I'm switched back to the cab control system, so I have it hooked up to the layout, and this is how you can register each locomotive by enabling the RailCom. So I have all the locomotives are on the layout right now. I have 65 of them, and I just picked one 4884, and I am now turning on the Wi-Fi, the RailCom, and you notice a few seconds later it shows up on the screen. Now the name of it is the name of the sound file that's loaded, and you can see it's on the speedometer. It says 4884, and then you can edit it. I usually like RailCom 128, and I like to give it, instead of the name of the sound file, I will give it the UP and then the road number 4884. So that's the name that it's going to have. And then you can give it a different picture. They have a bunch of pictures. You can load your own pictures. You can actually take a picture of your locomotive and put that in the system and then use that. This is a SD70. I put in there SD7, but it just showed ACEs. If you do SD60, it comes up with the image. It's just a generic image. I probably will eventually use photos and then have that on there. And then you can do different things for each of the functions. You can change the icons to different icons. You can decide whether they appear or don't appear. You can change them from momentary or toggle type. And then here you have the directions is right by the image there. And you can dial it up. Now notice there's the dial on the screen. You have a number in the middle. That's your setting, and you can do it with the buttons too. The throttle knob is motorized, so when you use the buttons to increase, the throttle will move. You notice that I have the button there on the side assigned to the horn and the bell. So if I can press those buttons and not have to use the screen for that. So that works out real well. And there's a button right here that says stop, and it does. It turns off track power. So it's very easy to turn the track power on and off. There is one issue though. If you're using this dial, it's easy to accidentally touch it with your finger and turn the whole layout off. Normally though, you use it like this if you're using your left hand. Now if you go back all the way like I'm doing there, it'll actually change the direction of the locomotive, which is pretty cool. All right, now here's some more things if you have that you can set up on the throttle for each locomotive. So here I have the locomotive UP2689. On the speedometer you can see it's RC, that's RailCom. And I'm going to go ahead and edit this. And in addition to assigning things to the buttons, the 4 buttons, you can also assign the brake sliders to each brake function. So on one of the sliders I'm making it F4, which is dynamic brakes. Brake function 2, I'm going to make that my regular brake. I always forget which is independent or train brake, but the third one then I put on F6. So there's the 3 brake functions and assigned to the ones, and then you can change the icon. They have a bunch of built-in icons. You can make your own icons too if you want, and include those. I haven't really got into doing any of that yet. All right, and then if you save it, then you notice the brakes appear, and as I do the one on the right, the F3, the third function went on, and then the other side, if you do that one, then it turns that brake on, and then you can do the physical slider, and that does the third brake. And it doesn't just put it on and off, it will gradually go stronger as you're doing it, which is pretty cool. All right, so I have this one dialed up. There's the lights. I have 0 doing both the lights and the ditch lights. And there's the horn. Now it seems like it's off a little bit, but it's not. It just is the way it's being video recorded. And there I press the start up. Notice the lights dim as the engine starts up. That's pretty cool ESU feature. And then as you can hear the engine rumble up and starting, then the lights come back on brighter. That's pretty cool. Oops, went too far. All right, we're going to go ahead and see if we can The sound is off a little bit on the video. I'm not sure why. It's not in person. All right, so we're going to go and run this thing a little bit. And I wanted to show you another cool feature. As you increase the speed dial, now I have set this on 255 momentum, although I notice I do have the momentum set to be off. So I'm going to turn the momentum back on. All right, and we're going to try it again. Notice as I turn it up, there's a set speed is the dial, and then you can see the white coming up the dial. That's the actual speed. So I have it set at 17, which corresponds to miles per hour. And then on the dial, you can see the actual speed of your train. And again, I have momentum set at 255, which is the maximum that you can set for it. So it's just now catching up, and I can set it back down, and the actual speed comes back down. I can use the brake, and it stops very quickly. So that's pretty cool. I turned on the backup light. Now I have the setup also so that when I start it up, I'm going in reverse, so it blows the horn 3 times and then turns on the bell until it gets to a certain speed, and then the bell shuts off. And then when you stop, if it gets down to a certain speed, the bell will come back on again, and then when it comes to a complete stop, the bell goes off. That's a pretty cool feature also of ESU decoders. And again, you can see the speed coming up to match the speed of the locomotive. And then we're coming to a stop. And the bell should come back on eventually. I'm going to go ahead and put the brake on. So that's a really cool feature, I think. The only problem with it is that you can only use it if you have this throttle. It does not work if you're using a Digitrax throttle or other type of throttle with the system. You have to have a RailCom ESU decoder and then this Mobile Control 3 in order for it to work. But it is pretty cool. And then the bell goes off when it stops. Now, one thing I want to mention also, there is a person that has put together a throttle for a phone specifically for the mobile control, actually for the ECOS system. So you can use a phone other than the Mobile Control Pro to run the trains. You won't have the throttle, but you still have all the icons and so forth. I'm going to contact him and see if he can have the actual, scale speed and the set speed feature on there. That would be cool if you could do that. Then anybody could use that feature. All right, consisting. That's a pretty cool way of setting up consist. And I have 3 locomotives here that have all been registered, and I have 2 of them on here so far. And I'm just bringing them up on the throttle, which I found out as I was doing this. You don't really need to bring it up on the throttle. But if you're doing this as a consist, it is helpful to have them all there ready to go. Alright, so now I went to create consist, and they have that little double engines there to indicate that you're on a consist, and now you basically add locomotives to the consist. So I'm going to go ahead and add the 3 locomotives if I can find them. I have this listed according to the address. So I have 2 there, 9069 and 7082, and I'm going to put the lead locomotive on here, 5363. And then they have little arrows. So at 5363 I have going forward, 7082 and 9069 I have going in reverse, which as you can see is how it's all set up. And you have to give it a name. So I'm just going to put this as coal. Coal train. Now, if I actually use this on operating and so forth, I probably would give the actual call letters for the train. All right, so there I have listed then the 3 locomotives are there plus the consist. Now, no matter which of the locomotives are consist, it will, no matter which one you choose, it will run on all of them. And I have it on coal train, as you can see, and all of the horns blow. And all of the lights come on. So if you're on the actual consist, every function applies to all the trains in the consist. Now that's good if you want to do brakes, speed. Okay, now I just have the horn of 9069 because I'm on 9069. So there are some functions you do want all 3 of them to do. There's some that you only want to do for just a specific locomotive. The horn, bell, and lights, you want it to be just for a specific locomotive. For brakes, speed, and sound, like starting up the engines, you might want to have it to be done on all 3 of them at the same time. We're going to go ahead and take a look at running this. So it's very easy to set up a consist. And there is, though, one problem that I hope they're going to fix. And that is the fact that while you're running a train, now here I just have it on 5363. So only its lights come on and its horn sounds, which is what I want. The speed will always be controlled by all of them. No matter which one you're on, all the locomotives in the consist will be controlled. Speed will be controlled no matter which locomotive you're on. But I'm on 5363 because I want to do the lights and the horn separately. And the problem, though, is if I'm ready to stop the train, I want to use my brake to stop the train. Then it does not apply the brakes to all of the locomotives. So if you notice, I press F6 to stop the train, and the lead locomotive stopped, but this locomotive is still going because it did not get the message. So you have to go to coal train and then apply the brake. So if you're running a train on the main line and you're coming up to a crossing and you're blowing the horn, and then you also need to stop the train or you want to turn on the dynamic brakes because you're going down a hill or whatever, then that's going to be problematic because you're going to be switching back and forth. Because sometimes you want the brakes applied to all the locomotives, Other times you want lights only applied to one of them. So it would be my recommendation that you be allowed to have one of the locomotives as a master, and then decide which of the functions you want to apply to all of the locomotives in the consist, and not just the one. Because going back and forth between the consist and the each individual locomotive is going to be a little cumbersome. So it's pretty cool the way it's set up. It's very easy, but I don't like the fact that some things are controlled on all of them and some things on just the consist, and so they need to get that straightened out here a little bit in order for this to be something that's going to be hopefully workable. So I'm hoping they're going to change that. But overall, I've been very impressed with this system. I definitely, unless something happens that throws a wrench into everything, right now I am liking the setup so far. In the upcoming videos, we're going to be covering the actual installation of the command control system and to replace the Digitrax. Going to cover the LNet connection, which enables you to connect a LocalNet bus, throttle bus, to the command station, and then have be able to use Digitrax throttles with the system. And then finally setting up RailCom detection, which is the main reason why I switched overall. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. Stay tuned for part 2 coming up, hopefully not too long. Have a great rest of your week and a great upcoming weekend, everyone. Take care.